Welcome to the news on top of the hour at First Next News Port Harcourt. First, we bring you the headlines. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajudeen Abbas, backtracks, denies condemning Nigerians borrowing. Federal government and labor unions closed-door meeting over NUPENG, hence in deadlock. Trade Union Congress tells federal government to withdraw 5% petroleum product tax or face nationwide strike. On the foreign scene, French government collapses as MPs housed Prime Minister. Bringing the news at this hour is Zach Jimmy. Now the news in details. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajudeen, has denied reports that he condemned government borrowing. Recall that while presenting at the West Africa Association of Public Accounts Committee conference yesterday, the Speaker expressed concerns that Nigeria's debt had reached a critical point and called for urgent reforms in borrowing practices and oversight. However, in a rebuttal by Special Advisor on New Media, Jowoshumi Eniton, the Speaker said his words were misrepresented. Eniton clarified that Tajudeen never called for a blanket condemnation of borrowing and he supports responsible public debt when properly overseen. He further stated that the Speaker's call was not against borrowing, but for stronger oversight, transparency and accountability so that debt translates into real-time development like roads, schools, hospitals, and innovation. Moving on to another story, we have a report here that the closed-door meeting organized by the federal government to broker peace between the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Worker NUPENG and the Dangote Group has ended in a deadlock. The meeting was held by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Muhammad Dingyadi, as well as Minister for State for Employment and Labour, Nkiruka Onyejocha, as part of efforts to resolve the industrial disputes between the two parties to avert the planned industrial action by NUPENG. Present at the meeting were the national executives of NUPENG and officials of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress. Also present was the Executive Director, Distribution System, Storage and Retailing Infrastructure of the Nigerian Mainstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Ogbuku Ukoha, as well as representatives of the Dangote Group and MRS Petroleum. Recall that NUPENG last Friday announced that its members would cease work from September 8th in protest against alleged moves by the Dangote refinery to prevent its compressed natural gas CNG tanker drivers from joining labor unions. However, Dingyadi, in a statement signed by the ministry's head of information, Patience Onuobia, appealed to NUPENG to suspend the strike and give room for dialogue, assuring Nigerians that the matter will be resolved amicably. In other news, we have here that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has terminated the appointment of Fego John Umunobo as Special Assistant to the President on Digital and Creative Economy in the Office of the Vice President. According to the reports, the presidency did not provide an official reason for his removal. The announcement was contained in a statement issued yesterday, September 8, 2025, by the Director of Information and Public Relations at the State House, Abiodun Oladujoye. The statement further noted that Omunobo's disengagement took immediate effect and cautioned stakeholders in the digital and creative economy not to engage with him in the name of the administration. Recall that reports had earlier suggested that Omunobo was suspended on September 2nd over an alleged breach of contract linked to the 5 billion naira Creative Fund initiative. On to another news where we have a report here that the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC, has issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government to withdraw its proposed 5% tax on petroleum products or face a national strike. TUC President Festus Osifo, in a statement today, described the policy as economic wickedness that would deepen the suffering of already overburdened Nigerians. Accordingly, the TUC has also directed all its state councils, affiliates, and structures nationwide to remain vigilant and wait for further communication that may culminate in decisive action should the government continue to ignore the collective will of the people. Meanwhile, the Chemical and Non-Metallic Products Employers Federation has also warned of the wider economic consequences of the proposed tax, saying the 5% surcharge on refined petroleum products will lead to an increase in energy costs for manufacturing firms and an increase in transportation costs, which will result in higher prices of agricultural products such as food. Still ahead, we have a news here from Edo State, where we have it at the Edo State Command of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps has today vowed to fish out the killers of 8 of its personnel in Okbela, a Shako East local government area, who were providing cover for Chinese expatriates working in Bua Cement Factory. Recall that the incident happened late last Friday, while the team was said to be coming from the company site around 10 p.m. when they were ambushed by the suspected kidnappers. Reacting to the developments, the command's public relations officer, Efosa Ogbegbo, said investigation into the matter was still ongoing and that the Corps' national headquarters is still handling the burial of the victims and welfare of the family members. On the foreign scene, France's Parliament has ousted the government of Prime Minister Francois Bayrou after just 9 months in office, leaving President Emmanuel Macron scrambling to find a successor and plunging the country into a new political crisis. Bayrou, who has been in the job for just 9 months, had backslided even his allies by calling a confidence vote to end a lengthy standoff over his austerity budget, which foresees almost 44 billion euros of cost savings to reduce France's debt pile. According to reports, he is the first premier in the history of modern France to be ousted in a confidence vote rather than a no-confidence vote, and will submit his resignation this morning. In the votes in the National Assembly, 364 deputies voted that they had no confidence in the government, while just 194 gave it their confidence in line with Article 50 of the Constitution. Barrios ousting leaves the French head of state with new domestic headache at a time when President Macron is leading diplomatic efforts on the Ukraine war. Over now to business, where we have a report here that the National Business and Technical Examinations Board (NAPTEP) has said the federal government is deliberating in its strategy to make technical and vocational education and training TVET a driver of national development. This comes as the board begins the review and validation of syllabuses for 26 trade areas in technical colleges in collaboration with education regulators, industry stakeholders, principals of technical colleges, and curriculum experts. NAPTEP Registrar and Chief Executive Officer Dr. Mohammed Aminu Muhammad at the 5-day review meeting described the exercise as a landmark reform and explained that the 26 trades under review covers both emerging technologies and traditional vocations, ensuring that technical graduates can compete globally while meeting domestic manpower needs. Among the trades are robotics, coding and machine learning, industrial mechanics and smart agriculture, cinematography and creative media production, social media and digital communications, automotive mechatronics, electrical and solar PV installation, hospitality and catering, mechanized farming, beauty therapy and cosmetology, as well as fisheries and aquaculture. Dr. Mohammed also called on industries to partner in providing internships, workplace learning, and mentorship, noting that successful implementation requires sustained commitment from all stakeholders. Over now to sports, where we have a report here that Super Eagles head coach Eric Chile has said he is only focused on his side's clash with Bafana Bafana of South Africa and Northeast Future. This comes as Chile's job could be on the line should Nigeria lose to their hosts in Tuesday's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying fixture. The 3-time African champions have collected 7 points from the last 3 games in the qualifiers, but still trail Bafana Bafana by 6 points on the Group C table. Chile, while speaking to newsmen, said he is only thinking about the game and his players, and if the end of the story comes, he is prepared for it. And that's the news on this hour. But before we go, a recap of the major stories. In the news, we brought to you that Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Abbas Tajudeen, has denied reports that he condemned government borrowing. We also informed you that the closed-door meeting organized by the federal government to broker peace between the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers (NUPENG) and the Dangote Group has ended in a deadlock. We told you that the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria (TUC) has issued a 14-day ultimatum to the federal government to withdraw its proposed 5% tax on petroleum products or face a national strike. On the foreign scene, we told you that France's parliament has ousted the government of Prime Minister Francois Bayrou after just 9 months in office, leaving President Emmanuel Macron scrambling to find a successor and plunging the country into a new political crisis. For more newsworthy events, reports, comments and observations, follow us on our YouTube page at First Next News. That's the news at this hour, brought to you by Zach Jimmy. Thank you very much for staying tuned.